Hello everyone! Today we will continue to talk about the human catastrophe that changed the entire 20th century, the First World War. In the previous episodes we mainly talked about the trench hell on the Western Front, but the situation on the Eastern Front was completely different. On the Eastern Front, there were no long trench lines, and both sides engaged in large-scale mobile warfare. The battles here are equally brutal and full of dramatic twists and turns. After the outbreak of the war, Russia carried out a nationwide mobilization in advance according to the agreement with France. Russia's mobilization speed was much faster than Germany had anticipated, and it only took 2 weeks to assemble 2 army groups, totaling 6,000 people, to launch an attack on East Prussia in Germany. This is a huge threat to Germany because, according to the Schlieffen Plan, Germany only deployed 1/8 army group with a total of 15,000 troops on the Eastern Front responsible for containing the Russian army. Now 6,000 Russian troops are pressing on the border and East Prussia is in imminent danger. General Prittwitz, commander of the German 8th Army Group, was terrified by the size of the Russian army and ordered a full retreat. Upon learning of this, German Emperor Wilhelm II was extremely angry and immediately dismissed Prittwitz from his position, appointing Paul von Hindenburg as the commander of the 8th Army and Erich Ludendorff as the chief of staff. Hindenburg was already 67 years old at the time and retired for many years. Ludendorff was a talented young general. The arrival of this golden duo completely changed the situation on the Eastern Front. Hindenburg and Ludendorff analysed the situation of the Russian army. They found that there was a significant gap between the 2 Russian army groups, and their communication was very outdated, using clear text to send telegrams. The German army can easily intercept Russian telegrams and understand their every move. So Hindenburg and Ludendorff devised a bold plan to concentrate all their forces, first eliminate the Russian 2nd Army Group, and then turn back to deal with the 1st Army Group. On August 26, 1914, the Battle of Tannenberg officially began. The German army used railways to quickly maneuver and quietly surrounded the Russian 2nd Army Group. General Samsonov, the commander of the Russian army, was completely unaware that he was surrounded and was still ordering his troops to continue advancing. Then the German army launched an attack. The Russian army immediately fell into chaos. Their supply lines were cut off and the soldiers had no food or ammunition. Many soldiers don't even have rifles and can only charge with bayonets. The battle lasted for 5 days. On August 30th, the Russian 2nd Army was completely annihilated. 12,000 people were captured, 3,000 died in battle, and 500 cannons were seized. General Samsonov committed suicide in the forest. The Battle of Tannenberg was one of the most classic annihilation battles of World War I. The German army eliminated a Russian army group at the cost of less than 2,000 casualties. This battle made Hindenburg and Ludendorff national heroes of Germany. To point this up to, the German army turned around to deal with the Russian 1st Army Group. On September 15th, the Battle of Missouri Lake broke out. The Russian 1st Army was defeated, losing 1,000 soldiers and forced to retreat back into Russian territory. However, in the Galician battlefield, the Austro-Hungarian army suffered a disastrous defeat. The Austro-Hungarian Empire concentrated 4 army groups, totaling 8,000 people, and launched an attack on Russia. But the army of the Austro-Hungarian Empire was poorly equipped, insufficiently trained, and the commanders were very incompetent. In the Battle of Galicia, the Austro-Hungarian army was defeated by the Russian army and suffered losses of over 4,000 people, including 80% captured. The Russian army occupied most of Galicia, approaching the capital of Austria-Hungary, Vienna. The disastrous defeat of the Austro-Hungarian Empire forced Germany to split its forces for support. This disrupted Germany's strategic deployment, making it impossible for Germany to concentrate all its forces on the Western Front. In 1915, the German army shifted its strategic focus to the Eastern Front. Hindenburg and Ludendorff commanded the German and Austro-Hungarian armies to launch a series of large-scale attacks on the Russian army. In May, the Battle of Gorlice broke out. The German army concentrated 10 army groups totaling 1 million people and launched an attack on a 30-kilometer wide front line. The Russian army was unable to withstand the German attack and collapsed completely. In the following months, the German and Austro-Hungarian armies advanced vigorously, recapturing Galicia and occupying most of Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. The Russian army lost over 2 million people, of which 1 million were captured. This was Russia's most devastating defeat in World War I. Tsar Nicholas II had to personally serve as a commander-in-chief of the Russian army. But this did not change the decline of the Russian army. Although the German army achieved great victories on the Eastern Front, they were not able to completely defeat Russia. Russia's territory is too vast, and the supply lines of the German army are getting longer and longer, gradually weakening their offensive momentum. By the end of 1915, the Eastern Front had also reached a stalemate. The two sides are facing off on a long front, from the Baltic Sea to the Romanian border. Although the battles on the Eastern Front were not as bloody as those on the Western Front, they still caused huge casualties. Throughout the entire war, Russia suffered losses of over 5 million people. These casualties laid the groundwork for the later Russian Revolution. In the next issue, we will turn our attention to the Mediterranean and see how the Gallipoli campaign, known as Churchill's Nightmare, cost the Allied powers a heavy price. Stay tuned.